Monday of the 5th week of Ordinary Time. St. Mark writes, "After making the crossing to the other side of the sea, Jesus and his disciples came to land at Gennesaret and tied up there. As they were leaving the boat, people immediately recognized him. They scurried about the surrounding country and began to bring in the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. Whatever villages or towns or countryside he entered, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch only the tassel on his cloak, and as many as touched it were healed." That is from the 6th chapter of St. Mark, verses 53 to 56. Well, what thoughts does that passage suggest to us? Our gospel scene today places us with Jesus and his disciples landing at Gennesaret and tying up there. As they left the boat, those who were near the shore immediately recognized him, and word spread like wildfire. People hurried throughout the surrounding region and brought to him all the sick they could. This was typical of so many villages and towns he entered. St. Mark writes in our passage that all they needed to do was to touch him and healing would come. So many were sick and helpless, especially in the ancient world when medical science was so rudimentary, and where in any case so many were far from professional medical attention. They hungered for life and health, and lacked the light to see any true meaning in their physical plight. Christ offered them hope. His power to do good for them seemed, and it was, without limit. Whatever their need, he was able to help them. And if he refused, as occasionally he did, it was for a good purpose and because the request was not in accord with the will of God. Now, on the one hand, this picture reminds us of the profoundly broken situation of fallen man stemming from sin. On the other, Christ gave himself to this ministry of healing, but it is clear that he did so in order to give a sign of something much greater that he had come to bring. His miracles were a sign of the coming of God's kingdom, which would be a kingdom of holiness. It is this which he especially had come to offer. St. John the Baptist, at the beginning of his public ministry, pointed him out and said of him, "There is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And years before this, the angel had said of him, before he was born, that he would save his people from their sins. It was the evil of sin which he had come to take away, and his wide-ranging healings and his raising of some from the dead were meant to signal to the people the coming of God's kingdom, its establishment in the hearts of men, and their release from the power of sin. But the true and deeper evil of sin, which Christ had come to take away, the holiness of life which would be his gift to all who come to him, was not of interest to the body of the people. Christ was sent, he told his disciples on one occasion, to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And it was to the people of Israel that he sent his disciples during the period of his public ministry. but the deeper message was not accepted. St. John, in the prologue to his Gospel, writes that he came unto his own, and his own did not accept him. For those who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God. St. John in his Gospel speaks of the miracles of Christ as being signs of the much greater benefits of redemption and sanctification he offers all who come to him. But let us look on the uncomprehending crowds as a sign for us too. Let us look on the rapid spread of word about his arrival, which we read of in today's Gospel, as a symbolic pointer or sign of the response we and all mankind are called to show to Christ and the deeper blessings of redemption he has gained for us by his death and resurrection. The crowds running everywhere, spreading the word of his arrival, they're bringing their sick to him, they're reaching out to him for healing and solace. All these scenes can be looked on as inspiring pointers to what we ought to be doing at a deeper and more important level. We all suffer from the profoundly debilitating and lethal disease of sin. It is passed on to each of us as our inheritance from our first parents, and we cooperate with sin to a greater or lesser extent. It is like a great serpent that has found its way into the heart and soul of each of us, and only Christ can rid us of its presence. So we should come to him with hope. Christ invites us to come to him unhesitatingly. He has the love and the power to deal with sin and to make us holy. We ought hurry towards him, bringing before him our sinful selves, together with the varied effects of sin in the world. We ought be like the people who hurried everywhere, passing word of his arrival and bringing to him all we can for his healing touch. We know where Christ is to be found. He is to be found in his church, the church he founded and in which he constantly abides. Within the life of his church, of which he is the head, he acts in the sacraments he instituted. Most especially, he offers himself and his sanctifying action in the sacraments of the Eucharist and penance, and he teaches and preaches in the teaching and preaching of the church's pastors and all who have a responsibility to hand on his word. Let us then come to him and find light and life in him.